got was your round two response. And so, you guys are like the reason why I'm at Messiah as a group. I guess I just love your zeal and your excitement. So, Craig, I'm thrilled about you being in the class and then rising to this level. So, what a testimony to the Lord. Surf and serve. Love your mission. Love your hearts. Love the idea that we're going to kind of do another pivot with you guys, I think, in round three, and kind of get you to a point where I just am excited. I mean, how incomplete would it be if we didn't have a truly missional thing in the IVC? And I mean, all you guys are missional, please don't misunderstand. But I mean, with this idea of evangelism and service is a cornerstone. So that has just been really kind of exciting to us as a group. So I can tell you these were difficult deliberations because of the quality of what came forward. And only 2 of your plans of the 6 that made it are actually from my class. I think that's a good thing, right? Because there's this sense in which the people from my class, this was a project for them, not necessarily a passion. I kind of think when you go above and beyond a call of duty and you just say, this is something I'm going to do, those of you who were in my class that made it, I know it's a passion now, which is awesome. I want to say a special word of encouragement to those of you who took of your own time, in addition to having a full load, and said, I'm just excited to be part of this process. So it's just been a journey for all of us, but I've been so blessed. At times I wonder how much longer I'm going to be at Messiah, and it's nights like this and the submission process we went through to kind of keep me here. So I couldn't be happier. I wanted to kind of remind us just briefly again that we're a faith-informed Impact Venture Challenge. And I think for some of you, it's so hard in the midst of what's my business market, what's my impact market, where's the market opportunity, how are we going to improve viability? And sometimes I think we lose this sort of faith foundation of what we're trying to do. It's easy. It's easy. Even in our lives apart from the IVC, sometimes we lose our way a little bit. And so I want to put those things up to encourage you. But the thought occurred to me in church today that I think sometimes with the right mindset, entrepreneurship is worship. Entrepreneurship is saying, not me, but God in me. Entrepreneurship is about looking at a marginalized population and saying, does God have it for us to make a difference in the world? And so I'm really excited about this notion that entrepreneurship is worship, if thought in the right way. And I thought of a song that really has been dear to me, and I think it's a good one to kind of ground. I know you're thinking, man, why we listen to music on a night like we're learning about round three? I kind of happen to think that a lot of you here have a pretty deep spiritual walk and are spiritually mature, and I thought it'd be kind of encouraging to listen to the lyrics of Center. And it talks about Christ being the center of our life, and I can't think of a greater opportunity, but as you move into round three, that Christ is the center of what you're trying to do in round three. So without further ado, I'm sure it's a song many of you know. If not, I hope you'll be blessed by it. And let me just make sure it gets off to an okay start with not too many advertisements and stuff. I hope that'll be a desire of your heart as you guys are moving around three, that we don't lose sight of kind of the thing we're all really here for. And I am just so encouraged by just this group, and so I thought I would kind of just share that. So let's talk quickly about round three and kind of get you ready for it. As you know, your round three submission is due kind of midnight on April 22nd. Really as a refinement to the feedback you got. And I want to duly acknowledge the IVC organizing committee. You see Dylan and Curtis here, Rebe, Ebenezer, and Daniel as well have worked tirelessly kind of in service to you guys, and have been an incredible blessing to me and have shown incredible leadership. And so one faculty member with 5 students, and I think it's just been a blessing to work with these guys, and how seriously they have taken this event has been just incredible to me. So I want to make sure they get their proper due. We'll continue with the same submit process. I have one request though, and we kind of, this is the first time we're doing this, and so we kind of weren't quite sure that you could only have one submit per question and one upload. For round 3, IVC members are not doing the judging anymore. The 6 judges are the ones who are going to be doing the judging that are coming. And I think it would be ideal if we could submit one doc to them. So for those of you familiar with PDF creators and such, really all you need to do is, if you have those 2 docs, you can do an append of the second doc, your financial model, to the first, and create a merged single PDF. And that's what I'd like to see us do. And if you have problems, let us know. I think some of you already did that in your submit, which was cool. If not, let us know and we'll work with you. What I don't want to do is have judges scurrying around trying to find the second document, and I think if we could just unify it in one document, that would be ideal. Okay? So that's kind of our request. Now listen carefully to what we're going to say. Your round 3 business plan is due April 22nd, midnight. However, the second part of your round 3 is your pitch, your 5-minute delivery of your idea in front of the judges. That's actually not really due final till April 28th at 7 o'clock. But we feel like it would be incredibly helpful that you guys got them done by April 23rd at 7 o'clock, not to submit them, but Dylan's going to be working on I think we've already gotten Fry 150 reserved, and we're going to set times for you to come and deliver your kind of draft pitches to us with some other outsiders to give you feedback. Okay? And in turn, you'll have another opportunity to revise those and all, but that's the only time we're going to give you formal feedback on your pitch. And you can do with it what you want. We'll talk a lot about that tonight. What we want to do though is the night of April 28th is theater night, right? We're creating a performance that night. We want this thing to go off like a well-oiled machine. Meaning we don't want to be fumbling and bumbling like we were in Fry 110 just a bit ago. Right? We want this transition to be seamless. We want this to look like a TV production. So we are probably going to have you guys on call sometime April 26, 27. Again, Dylan and the students will coordinate with you simply to do a dry run to make sure we've got no glitches to get you guys on stage on time, video or whatever you want rolling, so that we know on the 28th at 7 p.m. we're locked and loaded and we don't have any downtime, so to speak, okay? So, but it's not for you to redo your pitch. It's really just like a mic check and a check that the video works or whatever you're going to use. Everybody with me? Okay? So, and we'll also probably have you come early the night of the 28th. So please sort of earmark your calendar from about 4 or 5 o'clock on that night to kind of be around and available, just because we don't know what we're going to have to deal with that night. Okay, we just don't really know. The final thing is make sure you're using your mentors in this round. And I want to be careful with this second piece. We thought it would be helpful if each team had a member of the IVC organizing committee that was a student interacting with the team directly, because those individuals had the benefit of our conversation over 2 days as a committee, and I think can impart more insight about our concerns or the things we thought needed to be worked on. So we chose to assign a member of the IVC organizing committee to each team. okay? But I want to be careful. You guys are in charge of your teams. Think of the IVC Oversight Committee input as just that input. If an IVC committee member you think's trying to, overstate their bound and trying to have an influence you're not comfortable with, just tell him or her to back off. Right? Your job as entrepreneurs, much like you get overly zealous investors and you want to say, hey, we think we got this thing figured out. And I'm not suggesting any one of our IVC or committee members are going to be overly zealous. I have no idea. Knowing some of the personalities, I suspect some of them might be. Okay? You have my permission to say, Professor Nesbitt said, maybe we can tell you to back off. Right? I would be graceful about it, but you guys have worked too hard to get to this point with enough of a vision that God's given you that you own it. Okay? Everybody with me? Okay? So please don't feel like, okay, what do I do with this IVC member who all of a sudden seems like they're now the founder of the business? The answer is they're not. They're just there. Our heart's desire was to be able to take our conversation and give you some benefit of it through an IVC committee member. Okay? And if they really, really are getting problematic, let me know. Email me directly. Okay? I don't think any of you are going to have that problem, but I just felt compelled to make sure that you guys are empowered to do what you feel empowered to do. Clear? Everybody cool about that? Okay? All right. $250. We didn't know we were going to do it. I had this crazy thought one night that giving you guys $250 at the end of the round, it gives us a glimpse into your entrepreneurial spirit. Right? How you use that money is going to tell me an incredible amount, right, about just your thought process, your decision making, your sense of priority, how to invest. Because what does God say? If you can be faithful with a little, I'll give you more. Right? But if you're not faithful with a little, you're not necessarily going to get more. So I think there's some nice spiritual overtones to this idea of the $250. But I want to make it clear, we said in your round 2 submit, please tell us if you got $250, what would you do? That was just to give us some insight about your thought process. You are not bound to use the money in that way for this round 3. If you think between feedback and your own visioning as a team, there's a better way to spend the $250, spend it that way. I don't want you to feel like, oh man, we said a week and a half ago this is how we were going to spend the $250, and now we got 3 other ideas we think are better. Spend it on those 1 or 2 other ideas. Everybody with me? So total freedom to do that. Dylan's been an incredible resource throughout the whole process, and Dylan, I'm thinking that these guys are going to have access to the money maybe tomorrow? Wednesday.
The college only writes checks on Wednesday, and it's the only way they're going to use the cash. It's to get that out of our fund. So Wednesday is the day we'll have checks for you. And that's why I had to get your ID numbers, at least the team leaders.
Everybody okay? And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they need to give us receipts or anything after they get the $250?
No receipts needed. You use it how you want to use it, but I think that it'll be you're going to show up and you're going to tell us how you use it. That's going to be a question. And so if you show up, you don't have to answer it. It is important to note that whoever ID number that I have, that is the name that's going to be on the check. So that is the name, that's whose bank account I'm about to go into. So if you have any qualms with that, if you need to change it, let me know. I can get those to Val right away. Professor Nugent, if they have questions about how to use this 250, can they come to us and
Sure.
ask?
Yeah, yeah. But you're not bound in any way by how to use that money. We're no strings attached other than really if I'm you, my mindset is I have $250 and I want to do 2 things with it. I want to do everything I can to advance my standing in the eyes of the judges against the criteria that they're going to be evaluating us on, which we're going to go over one more time. Secondly, fair game at the end of your 5-minute pitch for a judge to say, so Bantu, tell us, how did you spend the $250? I'm not sure any judge is going to ask that, but if anybody does, and you're not feeling like the answer we gave was clear, we understood, the goal was to advance validation and the viability of our idea, then I think you're going to have exposure there. Okay? So that's the only guidance I want to give you. Your businesses are so radically different that it's like what applies to one wouldn't make sense for the next. So use that money wisely, I guess is the only thing I can say. Okay? Without trying to be too abstract about it. Okay. I have one slide about your round 3 revisions. First point is pay strict attention to the feedback you did get, okay, from the organizing committee. That was at least a reflection of concerns and thoughts we felt like you needed to address. Now, you know, when a professor says, this is the rubric I'm going to use to grade you, right? Any astute-aware student says, I'm going to look at that rubric as I think about my writing or my paper or my presentation and make sure my content and my delivery matches up well to the rubric. The beauty is the judging criteria that we're going to go over again tonight, and it's been publicized since the day we launched IVC, is well defined and known. I think it would behoove you to look at both your pitch that you're going to do, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and your plan and say, how does it score against this criteria set? Okay? Because that's really what the judges are going to do. Okay? Thirdly, some of your narratives, I felt like the writing quality and the style could be improved. And so I think you have an opportunity to include your narrative and to improve your narrative. And clearly, you want to establish that the business and impact markets that you've defined, that there's real opportunity, and that you have compelling offers both to the business and impact markets to penetrate those opportunities. And by doing so, you're going to get profitable and you're going to have impact. Right? That's a really important idea. And then anything you can show that's evidence that the team will succeed is critical. One of the reasons you're all in the room, by the way, is it wasn't lost on us that you went through some great means to show validation, every one of you. And I thought we emphasized that a lot in our round 2 workshop. And those of you who took it seriously, you met with people, you showed that people are interested in buying, you demonstrated there's a market, that's why you're here. Continue doing that, right? And what a wonderful opportunity in your round 3 update to say we've done further validation, right? Some of you guys have a dinner planned, right? Some of you guys are going to, Craig, you guys are going to do a sale, right? Every one of your teams, I think, has a meaningful milestone that's furthering your validation view between now and April 22nd. Clearly, you want to be writing about that. And if it doesn't work the way you expect it, no surprises. Don't go, oh man, what does that mean? The thing is, how do you respond to that? If it doesn't quite work right, what's your pivot? What did you learn, and how are you kind of tilting the business a little differently in your round 3 submit? Right? So remember, part of why we're doing validation is we want to accelerate our learning and make sure before we launch we're as sort of on target with where we think the opportunity is as we can be. Make sense? Okay? I kind of had this idea in my mind, and I thought I would just share it with you. Part of how was, when I was reviewing things, and then we met early last week, I said, you know, I'm going to give a certain premium credit to those teams that have already gotten transactional or about to get transactional. I meant, when you get to a point where there's revenue coming in for what you're proposing, you're demonstrating that there's a value proposition, that there's a willing buyer, that you have it at a price point that's meaningful, and that people are going to engage. And it's partly why, whether it was Surf and Serve in Panama and the proposed T-shirt sale, for example, or the Opalop guys who were kind of doing this dinner on the let me get it right, on the 19th, right? It's demonstrating, and all you can, that there's a meaningful market there. EMMS has already got beginnings of product sales. Great, right? We want to applaud and encourage that, because to us, that looks much closer to reality. Okay? So validation is important, not only in your plan, but in your voiceover. When you present, that's going to be critical. And we'll come back to that. Clarity, reasonableness, and attractiveness are your financial model. It took me 3 days to come up with that phrase, because they're the 3 things I'm looking for. I don't want to just go to an appendix A and go, I have no idea where the units came from. I want your in-plan narrative to help me understand that, number 1. Number two, is it reasonable? You know, some of you, we said, you know, without revealing too much, we said as Surf and Serve, man, don't you need another zero on how many t-shirts you're going to sell in the next 6 months? We're bullish about what you guys are doing. So we're kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. Why? Because now if you tell me you're going to sell 15,000 t-shirts in the next month, I'm nervous. But 150, I'm like, I think we can do that in a night. Right? So we're, you know, what's reasonable, what's overly aggressive, I'm trying to get you to norm around what's reasonable. And then, is it attractive? The question is, would I write the check? Is I, an investor, am I ready to write the check? Some of you need to think about your startup capital a little bit more and what you're asking for to get there, your revenue, your expenses, your profit. Then there was the mystical step 9 that I'm sure the accountants in the room figured out, the net present value. I think formulaically it just dumped out. If that's a negative number, cumulatively after year 3, what that's telling me as an investor is this is not a viable investment for me. Right? So, if I were you guys, I'd look at my, I think it's step 9, net present value after 3 years, and if that's a negative number, we probably had a fair amount of soul searching to do about your business for you to be here tonight. It certainly in your next submit should not be a negative number. Because what that tells me is after 3 years, you're still, and we net present valued your cumulative 3-year view, and it's a negative number. It means 3 years from now, we're net present valuing a negative number. Nobody would do that deal. Unless you thought the impact was so phenomenal. But I'm going to argue, I don't think we'd do that deal because I don't know you'll be around 3 years from now at that level of loss. Everybody with me on that? Okay? If you need help, please, you're foolish if you're in the room, unless you have deep accounting skills. Professor Kathleen Johnson and her husband Charles have volunteered to be resources to you guys. Use them. Ask them to look at your financial model and say, is this look reasonable? Okay? Everybody with me? Because your narrative can look great, but I guarantee you with some of these judges who are, in some cases, very significant Wall Street people in their background, you know, Rusty Reynolds and so on, I mean, they're going to take one look at your financials and say, I don't care what the narrative looks like. This just doesn't make any sense. Okay? So if you're not comfortable that you're there, please go and speak to some of the accounting folks. Okay. Here's my list. Is it real? That's my first question. Is this a project, or are we really serious about this? I think we weeded out as much as we could all the project people who were like, I'm doing this for grade, I'm doing this for extra credit. I think we're at a point where it's real. Meaning, I think there's a reasonable chance every one of you are going to do something derivative of what you've submitted if the circumstances are right. But you don't want to lose that sense of being real, because anyone who sees, I think, that night that this isn't real, this is just a, you know, maybe kind of shoulda, might, not going to work. So first question, is it real? Is it fundable? Because even though some of you are going to win, one of your teams is going to win the 5,000, you might actually need some additional money. So, you know, is it fundable? Do I think you guys are likely to be able to raise friends and family or other capital if necessary? Is it likely to launch? Right? Because, you know, we said, truth be told, we're going to honor every element of our rules. We are sticklers about that. We're going to honor every one of our rules. We said, you don't have to launch this to win the 5,000. We hope you do, but we're not holding you to that. My vision a year from now is the 3 finalists that make first, second, and third tonight, and maybe those that don't, but launch, we want you guys back in a year. We want you talking about what you've done in the course of a year. So I just hope we get some launches out of this where we're actually going to do this in whatever form it takes. Right? It might be a dinner every 3 months, or, you know, 1 trip or 2 trips a year in the case of Surf and Serve. I'm not sure. And then, is it profitable? Is it going to have an impact? Therefore, it'll be sustainable, and is it viable? Right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's actually not that complicated. I mean, these are the questions that every, you know, myself as an investor in entrepreneurial companies, truthfully, these are the questions I ask. I mean, and the only difference for you guys versus the real world is I tend not to ask the is it real question. Because usually the people coming to me are, you know, this is their moonlight job or they quit their day job, this is all they're doing. So it's definitely real. Okay? Questions? Everybody with me so far? Okay. Okay, pitch rules. We're going to keep it pretty simple. You can use whatever you want. You can roll video. You can do slides if you want. But a member of your team's going to need to be able to run. We're going to have probably a Windows laptop running that night. And whatever you need has got to run from that environment. Okay? I guess maybe we'll have to deal with Apple, a Mac machine if necessary. But the point is, and if you're only two together and you're both going to be on stage, then we'll have to figure out a way to get your resources, okay, to make that work for you. Dylan?
Ideally, you'll all have already provided the resources you're going to use that night to us beforehand.
Yeah.
So we can have everything uploaded on one machine.
Yeah.
We don't have to switch anything out. We're not dealing with that.
Yeah, we just really want to manage downtime that night, okay? You can even use props. You can come on stage in the minute you're going to have to get on stage. If you want to bring props, you want to have a backpack on your back, you want to, whatever. You want to bring a person representative of the impact community you're working with, and they're going to be part of your pitch that night, bring them. Bring them. Do it in good taste, which I know every one of you will, because, nothing like getting a vulnerable member of our community on stage and people feel like, make sure it's authentic and real for what you're trying to do. But whatever you want. You can say we're going to have a 5x5 that we're going to unfold and we're going to put behind us as we're talking. You will have a screen and you will be able to project slides, video, whatever you want, in addition to physical props on stage with you. Okay? Your choice. You will have 5 minutes to do your pitch. Okay? And as far as team size, we would want at least 2 people on stage, no more than 3. Okay? Because we don't want a crowd. At the end of your 5 minutes, and don't worry, we're going to have timers and all kinds of stuff to kind of make sure you're on point. That's partly why we're doing the dry runs, to make sure you're in time limits. The judges will ask 3 questions of you. We will not know ahead of time what they're going to be. The judge is going to have a minute to ask the question, and you're going to have a minute to respond. So that'll be a total of 6 minutes for the Q&A. Okay? So and then we're going to be like clockwork, or we'll be there for 4 hours. And we don't want to be there for 4 hours. So far, so good? Have I lost anybody? Okay. I had 6 ideas. Yeah, Craig.
We're still doing a video?
You can. Yeah, we're not requiring you to do the video. You can.
Is there a time limit for that?
It's all part of your 5 minutes, how you choose to use that 5 minutes. Okay? Luke?
It said on one, it's a minute video, 6-minute presentation, isn't it?
That was the original requirement, but we decided that that's not something
Right.
that we want to make you guys commit to. So it's up to you. So now you can't do that 60-second video. You can do a 5
But you
minute.
can't get 6 minutes, 1-minute video, 5-minute presentation.
I mean, we were thinking the total of 5. Does that seem, for some of you, that's a hardship, and we want to go to 6, we just need to agree uniformly to do that.
If you need to push for 5 to 7, if you need to push for that 7 minutes, because that's originally what we did say, then yeah, we'll keep you held accountable
Yeah.
for that.
We can go to 6.
Budget, yeah, absolutely.
We can go to 6, okay? Okay. 6 ideas about a good pitch, and then we're going to look at some videos. The best idea of a good pitch is you tell a story. Okay? Typically, I call it a before-after story. And you're going to see some of those. Okay? And the quotes are up there. I love this quote from Sandy Carter. I use it a lot. Tell me a fact and I'll learn. Tell me a truth and I'll believe. But tell me in a story and it will live in my heart forever. Right? Stories are compelling about your value proposition. So think about, every one of you, I almost have this persona in my mind of what a compelling story would be. So I think every one of you have that. Typically your stories, I think, are going to come from the lives changed in the impact realm you're working in. That would be my, I think, most natural story to tell. Okay, but I'll let you guys kind of decide that. But I think you want a narrative, and that story, by its very delivery, talks about the market and business opportunity, the impact, and even your validation can be a weave into the story if you want it to be. Okay? Focus on the essentials. You have 5, now 6 minutes to tell it all. That's a lot. And don't assume that the audience or judges know your jargon or like clarity, right? My PhD, my grad school advisor at Purdue said, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter book. The hardest thing to do is condense. Okay? So I think it's going to force you guys to think real hard about what's important, and I think that's good. Make the offer and the impact you're having as tangible as possible. Don't say we think this is what, like if you can be real about the impact it's having. There's nothing like a video clip of an affected person or a community that says this is the impact it's having. Don't leave any room for the judges to say, I wonder. Right? If you can be clear about the impact, then be clear. Investors don't want to see you reading slides. They know you're going to be nervous, but they expect passion, commitment to the idea, and being on point about the market you're serving. Right? And I think a lot of you are kind of already there. Believe it or not, presentation style dramatically affects investor perception of the opportunity. So be creative. Think about almost being an entertainer. Don't get overboard with that because there's an absolute seriousness that investors want. But you want to be compelling in how you're kind of delivering your idea. And absolutely, again, backtest your pitch against the areas that we're going to talk about in judging criteria. And say, did we hit these elements clear and firmly? Okay? Everybody with me? Cool. All right. If I were you guys, these are just thoughts to give you. You're not bound. You can do whatever you want in 6 minutes. And you'll see some sample pitches in a moment. Clearly, you want to briefly introduce yourselves, the role you're playing, in any relevant background. I'm an engineering major, and this has been a key part of what I've spent the past 3 years on. I get it, right? Debated whether going to culinary school or coming to Messiah. I'm here, but I have a passion for food. Get it, right? Surf and serve, man. Surfing's been my life since I've been a kid, and it's in the DNA. It's in my gene pool. This is what I do in my free time. I want to look for an opportunity to serve in that capacity. Got it. Everybody with me? Like it just flows off. But we don't need to know about your GPA and all this other crazy stuff. In fact, for some of you, we don't want to know about that, right? We just want to know what's relevant about your background so that the judges say SME, subject matter expertise, so they get it, they understand it, right? That's what we want, all right? We talked about making the offer and the opportunity tangible and real. I think your stories are a great opportunity to do that in one full swoop. Make sure you spend time talking about, hey, we validated. Here's what we did to learn. Here's how what we're doing is now different. We pivoted. Here's the success we've had to date. We've already established a partnership with this nonprofit. They're really excited about working with us, or a supplier, or whatever it is. We got IEEE. I forgot the thing, Nathan. Right, we got them actively looking at what we're doing, friendship community all over us for our partnership, right? Bondu, you guys already have, every one of you have major advances there. Surf and Serve already been on some trips. That's why you guys are in the room. That's why you guys are in the room, right? And we have a lot of confidence in Jack's Pack that you guys are going to get there. So we got 11 days of calendar. You guys are going to get there. You guys are going to get there. Right? Awesome. All right. Then somehow you got a thumbnail in about 30 seconds what your financials are going to be. If you ever see Shark Tank, you know at some point what's your price, what's your revenue, how much money have you made. That's all part of the narrative, right? So, you can leave that as an exercise to be asked about, or you can preempt it and do a 30, 20-second summary of your 3-year view and be done, okay? Now, last 2 points. This is not a theology class. This is not Christian formation. On the other hand, it's a faith-informed business plan challenge. If it's natural and there's a way that you can communicate that your faith has informed this venture in a way that's appropriate, I don't want any of you to feel forced to do this at all. And actually, if it's forced, it's not going to look good. It's probably going to hurt you more than it's going to help you. But if there's a way to talk about your faith formation and how it has kind of fused into this idea, go for it. Go for it. We are a Christian college, and this is what we're about, right? There's a difference between what you're going to see here and any secular place. Now, final question, final point, I think every team should answer directly, but I'm not going to require this of you. But I think this is the equivalent of saying, how much money are you asking for and what percentage of the company are you giving up in our competition? We're not asking you to put a value on the business. You know, this isn't Shark Tank. We're offering a 10% stake for $50,000. We're not doing any of that. But I think what we are doing is the near proxy for that is, if we were to win the $5,000, this is what we would intend to do. The judges are going to ask you, so you might as well kind of pre-think the answer to that and just be direct about it, because it's probably the closest thing they're going to ask about, you know, the financials and the launchability and stuff of this thing. Okay? Does that make sense? I just want to jump to criteria and then we're going to look at videos. Again, I'm not being overly prescriptive. I was really careful to just say, you guys own this, you know? And what you do with it is your business. Go back and look at the criteria again, okay, and really know what's going on. The judge's assessment will be on your plan and your pitch, broken down as follows. That night, your pitch is going to count for 20% of your grade. Think of it a grade in that sense, right? Dylan, I'm confident. Are you confident we're going to get the text to vote to work?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and you're going to see a slide on buzz for April 28th. I think you're crazy if you don't have 50 people in the room from your team, just cheering you guys on and creating a buzz. And you got to start recruiting and getting people there. I think posters, I think anything is fair game. You need a crowd there to create some excitement. And you'll see, I just want them to be respectful of all the teams. But I really think this is an opportunity to have fun and have a good time. So, and also it's going to tip the vote in your favor. But I'm not going to go over this again. I'm going to just ask you to go back and look at this set of factors. The business model, your impact model, and your viability are a big chunk of where the judges are going to come back to and rate your plan. 90% of the vote for who makes first, second, and third comes from the judges. Right? Clear to everybody? Okay. So, as I said, April 23rd, 7 o'clock, Friday 1:10, we'll get a schedule for you. Be on call, be responsive from the 25th to the 28th. Absolutely have a crazy crowd there that night. Family, friends, mentors, boyfriends, girlfriends, former boyfriends, former friends. Bring it, okay? Let's absolutely rock the place. Who knows, that former might become a current, right? If you perform well on that, I don't know, right? Bring posters, do whatever you want, but be respectful. You know, make sure we're not booing and hissing and stuff like that. I mean, just be respectful. That's all I ask. Okay? But have fun with it. You guys, man, this is an honor for you guys. Have fun with it. Should be on all your resumes, by the way, that you made the IVC finals. And the brief title of what you're doing. Absolutely something you should be proud of. Yeah.
Just a question on the text to vote. Is that only connected through the school network? Or is
No. Anyone who's in attendance that night, we're going to give them instructions, so they don't have to be a student.
Okay.
But we'll only have one vote. We do want to try to enforce this one vote thing.
So it can't be like people that aren't even on campus. They have to be there that
They have to be there that night.
Okay.
They have to be there that night. Yeah.
Is the final decision based on text to vote or on this exchange?
Yeah. Only 10% of the final decision is text to vote. 10%.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah, no. We don't, otherwise it's going to be a popularity contest and we don't want that. Truthfully, text to vote is a bit to have fun and to get a crowd there. I think that's an incentive for you guys to have people there. Okay? Make sense? Everybody cool? So create a buzz, and we really want to have fun that night. We really got to be careful. It's already looking like a 2-hour night no matter what we do, and we're really trying to manage our time. Okay? We will award you won't get a physical check that night. You'll get a proxy for a check, you know, that they, hold something up, you know. I think you know where to go if you don't get the money eventually, right? Talk to Dylan if you don't get the money. But we're good for the money, don't worry. Okay, I'm done. I want to look at some videos. Questions still at anything we said? Everybody okay? Confused? Got it? Summarize. Round 3 is a resubmit of round 2, reflecting the comments and feedback you got. And I think you're foolish to not go talk to the accounting profs and get their feedback on your model, because you're going to have a deeper level of scrutiny on that than you did for round 2 with the people that are being judges. Okay? And then absolute your pitch. We're going to go to 6 minutes. You can use that time any way you wish. I think for some of you, videos are going to be a huge benefit to tell your story, but I'm not going to require that of anybody. Garth?
I just had a question about giving the pitches and stuff. You say you can bring props and things like that.
You can.
What about like dress? Are we thinking like business professional, or is it like if we have T-shirts or something, can we wear that?
You know, I could just give you an example. For Surf and Serve, I think for those guys to show up in suits might not be ideal,
Okay.
right?
So
Because
just
they
kind of
might
fit
want
into
to
the-
just, they might, it's all part of the culture. So I would say dress in a way that you think's appropriate for what you're trying to present. Okay? Some of you might be business casual. Some of you might be in a suit. But at the end of the day, you're students. And I don't want you to try to be something you're not, but I think you want to dress in a role-appropriate way for what you're pitching that night. And that's why I think we got a broad range of thoughts here. So I'll give you guys freedom, but I think if you come dressed very distastefully and in a way that doesn't map on all to what you're doing, that's probably going to reflect negatively on you. Okay?
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Okay, so now, I don't think we're going to have time to do all of them. I don't want to keep you guys here real late. Go.
Can I request it?
We can. I just want to tell you what's on the left and right. On the left are more full business pitches. And in parentheses, the length of the pitch. This is a 4-minute pitch. Lifesavers 9, you get it, okay? And there's a few I think we really ought to see. On the right, 1.5 minutes. They are kind of video vignettes that are not pitches, but they tell the story of the venture in a fairly compelling way. Okay? So I want to look at a few. I was going to look at, the Jonas Paul, the eyeglass company doing. The cup ad, I think is good, and I would like to look at Seiko Design. Okay? And then the others you can look at, but I'm going to just do those 3. Okay? So Praxis Labs is a neat organization. Dylan and others have had some exposure to the guys at Praxis, and here's all the pitches that made it to their final night. Okay? And truthfully, some are better than others. I chose Jonas Paul here because you'll see why. Okay, that's a story, right? Very deeply personal, right? Woven in. Went to talk about the market, their success to date. I mean, 5 minutes, 30 seconds, right? Pretty compelling, right? So I think that's it. And if you really want to look for more, look through. There's some good solid content there. Okay, now this guy won the competition, and I'm going to just say that. Listen carefully, because he's clearly on a timer. All right. High energy dude, right? Wow.
Ready to show up on 28? Come on.
Okay. Dylan, you want to do an intro to Seiko?
Intro?
Super energetic. Go.
I think her name is Liz. I think it's Liz. Either way, she is one of the Praxis fellows. She went through the accelerator on the full side.
After the sale.
I think it's at 3:30.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's a firecracker, and she knows her business front and back.
So the punchline is, they're not yet profitable. And that was a big negative to the judges. I don't even think any of them made an offer. I think they missed the boat, by the way, right? The story goes on.
Right, they did secure VC right before this though, that was actually greater,
In that.
so the sharks
Okay.
just weren't into it.
Yeah. I mean, the woman, I think her and her husband were an incredible pair. He had this calm demeanor, right, and she just had this passion. She told her story and kind of interesting stuff. Okay, we're done with the pictures. There are more you can look at. I want to do a few clips that are just quick videos. Okay. One more. Okay. So, all to say, a minute's a long time to tell a story if you're on point and you know what you're trying to do. So on the right-hand column, in my mind, are kind of examples of things you could include in your 6-minute pitch. On the left-hand side, were more kind of the full narratives of what that could look like for you. That's all we have for tonight. I hope tonight was helpful toward getting you ready for what we'd like you to do. You know, in some sense, the pressure's off and have fun with it. I mean, the fact that you made it here is awesome, and I think you'll have a friendly audience. There are no sharks as judges. We've done a shark scare and kind of gotten sensible folks that will be judges. So, you know, no one's going to embarrass you that night. Trust us, it's going to be a night of celebration, really, and a night of encouragement, I think. Josh?
One more judges will be released.
We know who they are, and
This week I'll be communicating about the 28th, so I can put it in there.
I can tell you, Rusty Leonard runs his own wealth management company, had 2 children that graduated from Messiah. Matt Ziegler, Messiah Alum of the Year about 2 years ago, ran Impact PA, or Team PA, a large effort to bring economic development to Pennsylvania. Now works in Pittsburgh for Bank of New York Mellon Foundation, exclusive focus on impact investment. Great guy. I think he'll be a great resource.
Dean Maurer, the Dean of the School of Business, Education, and Social Sciences, will be one of the judges.
Right.
And we've got Chris Tassi, he's an entrepreneur from, I think, South or else North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Charlotte.
Charlotte?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so you're familiar with Chris Tassi.
Yeah.
Do you know any, well, yeah, and there's Elise Byler, and that's a connection to Peter Greer. I already said her, didn't I?
Yeah.
What was another one?
And then the final one was through.
Oh, yeah,
Pearson.
Ann Dieter Gallagher. She is a marketing entrepreneur and sort of guru around here. She's pretty well known. So,
But we'll get those names out with a little bit of bio as well. But I think we'll be pretty encouraged by who they are and their backgrounds. Questions? Are you guys excited? Are you excited? I hope so. I hope you can have fun with that night. Our intent is that you can have fun that night. But do get a crowd there. Let's, part of it is just a buzz and having people there. I know a bunch of my friends from Lancaster are coming out, and they don't know any of you guys, but I just told them it's gonna be a fun night. And, so who knows? A couple of them have reasonable means, so maybe they'll come with some additional money,
You're selling, definitely selling.
Okay, feel free to email us at incomeventurechallenge@gmail.com. Remember, IVC or committee members are not your investors, they're simply resource people. Use the accounting profs. Mr. and Mrs. Johnston have graciously volunteered to be resource people. And feel free to use whatever resources you can. And I'm excited. I hope you guys are. We'll be in touch. Please be, as I know you have, please be responsive to Dylan or whomever you get an email from. We got a lot of logistics that are to be determined. Final venue location is to be determined. We went down to Hoster, which is where it's supposed to be, and that could work. We're kind of exploring some other possibilities, including the Union and some other places. So we should know within the next 2 or 3 days where it'll be. Part of it is it's hard to know how many people are going to be there, and but we don't want to, overly big venue where we're feeling like we're small. We want to fill up whatever venue we have. Okay, thanks, guys.